Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and everyone who has been paying attention to the Karen Reed trial is waiting for the verdict. And wow, still waiting for the verdict. Someone just told me they told the judge they were deadlocked, and so they're at lunch. That's the last I heard. Now, during the show, I'm not going to be paying attention to what's going on out there. So if you hear anything about the jury coming back or what the verdict is, please let me know because I'm not going to be watching that while I'm doing the show. So I want to welcome everybody who is here in the chat room. This is a rare open live, which I don't do too often, but I'm willing to have the varying opinions here, shall we say. But please do try to be polite because that is always a nice thing to do. Please have no politics here. We're talking about here the trial as the issue of the trial, and I think where is Mark? Let me find the first best comment so far. She says, "Will it contain the word bus stop?" My commentary. Yes, it will contain the word bus stop. And in case you all don't know what that means, it is. I believe that civilian jury systems are basically 12 people off a bus stop. Untrained people, maybe good people, maybe some of them are smart people, but yet there are 12 people off a bus stop being pulled out into this jury box. You know, now they're there. And the jury system in the United States, I think, is gotten, it doesn't work in this day and age because of the level of technology that's out there, the level of cleverness with the experts and all that stuff. So you don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't, unless you're very familiar with crime scene analysis and criminal profiling and the entire system. So you have 12 basically regular folks, I said they could be good regular folks thrown into the lion's den. And we wouldn't do this with any other kind of situation. Can you imagine hiring somebody for a job and you just pick 12 people off a bus stop and then, you know, those are going to be the people that are going to work in your engineering program or in a medical situation? No, you would never do that. You'd want to carefully review each single person, look at their background, make sure they have the ability, and you try to pick the 12 best people. But in this case, we just pick any old person. And on top of that, the defense wants to make sure if their client is guilty, and they know the client is guilty, they want some real dumb people on that jury. They want people who have too many emotions. They want to find people who can have sympathy with their client, with the defendant. And so I went to a jury once. One time I went for jury duty, and they asked anybody who had a member of their family who had been in prison to please come forward. And all these people stood up because I'm in PG County, Maryland. So a lot of people have family members who have kind of broken the law, and we have a high crime rate. And I didn't get up, and I was excused and dismissed without any question by the defense. So this is the kind of shenanigans that go on. And so I have a lot of sympathy for the people who are on the jury for going through a trial like this. It has to be hell. It's cruel and unusual punishment that they don't even get paid for. And I think that in itself is almost like slavery. It is wrong. Most people think if they don't if they don't do their civilian duty as a juror, they might get arrested and sent to jail because they refused. And there is some level of truth to that, although there's easy ways to get out of jury duty, mind you. But those people that go there, they're put through hell, and it's not right. They have emotional issues they have to deal with. Sometimes they have to see horrible photos of the deceased, terrible murder photos. They have to live with that the rest of their lives, especially when it comes down to children. They might be dealing with a child murder case. They have to go through all that, and they're just regular people. It's not fair. It's absolutely cruel. And then they have to sit through sometimes lengthy trials that destroy their entire personal lives. And I just don't. I think what they do to the jury is crazy. And in this case, there's more than that. There are threats toward the jury and jury intimidation, and That is a really big problem in this case. So with that to start with, I want to say that, yeah, I believe I just came back from San Antonio, Texas, went to the Alamo, and they always say, remember the Alamo. I think this will be the remember the Karen Reed case, regardless of what the verdict is. And I think this case, the Karen Reed case, is the poster child for why we should not have civilian juries, regardless, again, of what the verdict is. And so I'm going to get into all of that. I'm going to answer any questions that you might have that are rational and reasonable. And but before I get started, I want to just mention, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Check my playlist for all of the other cases that I analyze. I don't do 50 videos on one case. I don't deal with gossip. I don't exploit in that way and grift. I do things when I think there's a reason to speak about a case. And every week I do a case show where I analyze an entire case. And so do subscribe to the channel, and also you can click on the link below there. I have a Patreon account, which you can join Patreon for $5 a month, and you can come to all of my regular lives, which are 2 a week and are not public. But after we finish the patron only hangout during the week and the patron only case show during the week, I do make them all public, so that if you subscribe to the channel, you will see every one of my videos. I don't hide anything. You don't have to pay if you don't want to. Okay. Oh, and this is, by the way, I did have super chat on this, just because I know I say super chat's like being a stripper and people throwing money at you. But since I'm going to put myself out here in this complete chaos of this show, this dog and pony show, this absolute outrageousness that's going on, throw money at me. No. Just kidding. Anyway, let's get to what I'm going to talk about now. All right. So, all right. Now, let's see where we're at. All right. This particular case, as I point out, in my opinion, shows what's incredibly wrong with the criminal justice system and its court methodologies and its trial methodologies. Trials should be somber. They should be professional. They are actually, when you think about it, somebody's life is at stake, or the justice for the victim's life. Justice for the victim and their family is also at stake. So you've got your defendant whose life is at stake, possibly, well, especially in a murder trial. Their life is at stake, whether they're going to be in prison or there's the death penalty. And for the family, justice is at stake, that they want justice, and they want the right person convicted, mind you. So all of this should be very, very, very serious, very serious. Thank you, guys. That is very, some of you have come through and thrown money at me. Thank you, Dog's Discussion. You're so sweet. And thank you, Phil. Love your take on things. Well, I appreciate that. Some people don't. But I appreciate it when you do. That's what I can say. I don't go with the program, and anybody who knows me knows that. I don't just say things because that's where the wind blows. I try to be as truthful as possible. So in this case, we've got we have to have in a justice system, in a true justice system, everything should be very serious, and we should not be having mobs influencing trials, because then we're going back to the Salem witch trials, or people with torches going up a mountain, or going to small villages where basically whoever controls that village controls the people, and then they can hang somebody from a tree. This is not the system we're supposed to have. We should have a serious, somber type of justice system. In my opinion, my version of what we should have would be a professional jury system. And when I say that, what I mean is trained jurors, not lawyers, but trained jurors who have gone through whatever level the course would be on criminal profiling and crime scene analysis, and so they can understand what they're dealing with. And they go through that, and then they are selected from whatever, they're on the list, and maybe 5 are selected for every major trial. I'm not talking about the minor trials, but major trials. 5 are selected, 7 are selected, whatever. And at least they come in and they're coming in professionally, and they're not so overly emotional about it, or completely ignorant about what they're even supposed to understand. Thank you, Weevil. Thanks for putting this one out as a public, despite the likely chaos. Yeah, that's why I don't usually do it. But this is just going on right now, and I just really want to get this. Well, it's my opinion about the professional jury system out there. So if you have a professional jury system, what you have are people who are trained, and they are getting paid, which is, oh, no, you shouldn't pay a jury. Yes, you should. They're working. Why shouldn't we pay people who are working? You're taking them out of their lives, sometimes sequestered, and you expect them not to even get paid. I think that's a problem. I think you should be paid for your work, and you should be trained for your work. And therefore, you'd have a more serious jury that has ability. Now, some people say, oh, but they can be bribed. There's a case in Minnesota right now. One of the civilian jurors' families got a whole bunch of, it was a bag of money dropped on their doorstep saying, hey, if you vote to not convict this group of people, more coming. And luckily that person was honest and reported it. At least they reported some of the money. I just don't know if they reported all of the money. We don't even know how much money actually showed up. We just know what they reported. So they're either very honorable or very sneaky. And so you can bribe, and you can intimidate, and you can, which is happening with this jury, with this out here. This should never happen. This is appalling. This whole brigade with, Turtle Boy and his turtle nuts, psycho Turtle Boy. I'm not giving it a diagnosis, but he checks all those boxes. He's out there. He's supposed to be a journalist, and he's out there with his bullhorn, and he's pushing all these people to shout, "Free Karen Reed, free Karen Reed." Now, let me ask you this question: if they believed in the civilian jury system, they believed that getting 12 people off a bus stop and getting them in there is a good thing, and they're going to analyze the evidence from the prosecution and the defense, and they're going to come up with a reasonable conclusion, the correct verdict. Why the heck have they been intimidating the jury for forever? And why is this nasty piece of work out there constantly trying to intimidate the jury? Because if I were on that jury right now, I'd be freaked. This whole group has harassed many people and threatened many people. If I were on the jury, I'd be scared for my life and for my family's life. So that poor jury, they have been intimidated. This should be a mistrial. This should have been a mistrial a long time ago. This should never have happened like this. But this is the kind of stuff we have going on, and it's ridiculous. Now, if there were a professional jury, they wouldn't have that kind of influence. But what's happening today in this world is, first of all, when you get the cameras in the courtroom and video everything, everybody says, well, that helps everybody understand how the justice system works. We can see for ourselves what's going on, and that's a good thing. Yes, except that now it goes onto the internet at every single media outlet, whether a national media outlet or a YouTube media outlet or whatever. They start going crazy on it, and they start talking about it. Then that influences the jury. Now you say, well, if the jury isn't supposed to look at this stuff. Yeah, right. If they're not 100% sequestered juries, they go home at night. Oh, I'm not supposed to go on the internet, but I'm going to stand behind my husband. What are they saying? What are they saying? Of course, they're going to do that. They're going to say they didn't, but they're going to do that. So to say that, the whole trial being televised and everybody talking about it isn't influencing the jury is nonsense. I don't know how we can hide our head in the sand like that. I absolutely do not know. Thank you very kindly. I don't know how that can happen. It's like the emperor, the emperor wearing no clothes, right? And all the adults are saying, "Oh, look how handsome he is." And that little kid goes, "But he's naked." This is what I think the jury system is like. It's like everybody says, "Oh, we have the greatest jury system," but every prosecutor, every defense attorney will say the same thing. And guess what they say? It's always a crapshoot. A crapshoot. Well, should we have a justice system that is a crapshoot? That every trial that comes up is a crapshoot? That's outrageous. Would you want to have a crapshoot? Let's say your loved one had to have some kind of surgery that might save their life. Do you want 12 people off a bus stop coming in and the doctors go, well, whatever they decide, we'll go with it. But it's a crapshoot whether they want the surgery or not, because 12 people don't understand this brain surgery thing. So they're going to be told how it works from different experts, and their experts are all going to disagree. One expert says, oh, you should get that brain surgery. It'll save his life. The other one says, then it's going to kill him on the table. And the person, all those 12 people go, no. So they guess. It's a crapshoot. Why would we have a justice system that's a crapshoot? I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It isn't. I mean, I'm willing to admit that. There's nothing in life is perfect, but my God, we have to at least attempt to have a reasonable methodology. So in my opinion, a professional jury system where people are properly trained and then they're selected, it's not like, oh, we're going to pick these 5 people for this trial and these people. No, selected, out of a hat. Okay. For different trials, the major trials like this. And then on top of that, I don't have a problem with televising it, but I want after you finish, I don't want it live. I want you can televise it, but not put it out until after the verdict is given. That way we can look back and see how the trial was conducted. And therefore, if there's any kind of issues that are really sketchy, we can then address those, but not during the trial. The trial should be something that is something we believe in enough where I also want a gag order. I think the fact that defense attorneys, because the prosecution can't do this, defense attorneys will go on every talk show there is, and they will spread anything that they want to spread. They're spreading it on Delphi. They're spreading it on Idaho. They spread it on this case. They're manipulating the public before the trial even starts. And so that also affects the future jury. So I want a gag order, and then if you believe in the system, let's have the prosecution do their job, the defense do their job, have people know what they're doing who are trained people there. Therefore, it's going to be a lot less dog and pony show, because they're going to say, oh my God, these people actually know what we're talking about. So we're going to be careful about what we present, because these people aren't going to fall for a bunch of nonsense. So the trials will be shorter, more rational, more reasonable, and come to, I think, a more proper conclusion. More likely, less of a crapshoot than when we have a civilian jury who may mean well, but for goodness sakes, do they know and here's the thing. Thank you very much, Sabine. That's very nice of you. Here's the thing. 12 people. It only takes one to screw it all up. So the point being that out of 12 people, hey, let's say you had 12 people and you're like, I want to get 12 people who all agree on where we're going to go on vacation. Good luck. There's always going to be 1 or 2 people are going, I don't want to go there. So why would we think that 12 untrained people are all going to agree on everything? And there's not going to be one person that's going to buy something that's nonsense or have some emotional thing, because emotions play a great part in a lot of trials. And politics play a great part in many trials, where 1 or 2 or 3 are people, how many ever people, aren't there looking at the evidence. They're looking at what's in their own emotional, in their head, in their hearts, whatever. And that sways them so that they look at that and go, oh, well, I feel bad for it. And I've seen this with the Karen Reed trial. It's just unbelievable amount of emotion and politics. First, the politics are everybody's corrupt. The police are corrupt. The prosecution is corrupt. Everybody's corrupt. And then the second part is all emotional toward this poor woman. She's being framed. Now, if they believed in, again, the justice system, they would let this play out without all the shenanigans. And they would think that the jury would be able to determine whether the prosecution put on a reasonable case or whether the defense is proving that she was indeed framed. And that would be that. But that's not the way it's been. It's been absolutely... I want to say a certain word, but I just got one of my channels demonetized for saying a couple words in it, and they weren't even bad words. So it shouldn't be a helping and lip read. Okay, let me see what some of your comments are at the moment. Um, this is an interesting point. The pink cult think Karen is a celebrity. I guess she is on court TV. They have indeed done this. Now, whether you think Karen Read is guilty or not guilty, she is not a celebrity. She's a woman who was drunk driving. There's not an issue with that. She was intoxicated. She shouldn't have been on the road, but she was. And she wasn't even aware of what happened, which is why she was confused as to why John O'Keefe never returned home. She was like, oh, what happened? Could I hit him? Did I hit him? She didn't know what happened. Now, well, she may have known what happened, is covering it up. But if you want to go with the fact that she wasn't trying to cover things up, she was intoxicated. She was drunk driving. Is that okay? What if she had hit a child? Will she still be a celebrity? Will you still put on pink and say, she didn't mean to hit the kitty? She killed the whole family was driving down the road. Mother, father, and 3 children. But hey, she didn't know what she was doing. We are very strict on drunk drivers. People, and sometimes I'm even almost feel a little bad for drunk drivers in the sense that sometimes people don't realize they're as intoxicated as they are, and they may be a normally nice person but do something unfortunate and actually kill somebody. I get where, there's kind of a gray area there. They did wrong, but they're like not evil people. And there are some people who think that Karen Read should have been charged with manslaughter and not murder. And I think the reason that it went that direction was that she left the scene. The prosecution, this is the prosecution's story, that she hit him, and she was pissed at him. She was pissed, the UK version of pissed, and she slammed into reverse, whacked him, and he went, and she drove off. And then, not knowing where he was, she actually didn't return to the scene until very, very, very late. She also didn't seem to contact people in the house and say, did he go, hey, I'm coming back because John didn't come home. I'm concerned something happened to him, outside your house, because he never came home. He's either in your house or outside your house. She didn't do any of that. So I think that's why the charge went up, because they became concerned that when she got her brain back at some point, she fled the scene of an accident essentially, and did not return until very, very late to find out what happened to her boyfriend. And so they believed she thought about it, and she thought wrongly, and she could have saved him if she had hit him and thought, wow, maybe I hit him, stopped the vehicle and went back and looked. She might have been able to save his life, in theory. And if she had driven away and thought, why didn't he come home, and raced back and found him, she wouldn't have had to wonder how long it would take to die in the cold, because she would have gone back. But she didn't. She did a whole bunch of other stuff, which I'm not going to get into all the details of the case. If you've been watching the case, you know all the different arguments over how many calls she made and who she called and all that stuff. But she didn't do that. So that's why she ended up with a higher charge. Some people think that was the prosecution maybe should have just gone with a lower charge, but then maybe John's family are happy they went with a higher charge, because they're like, she caused his death. The family is saying she hit him, she drove off, and she left him there to die in the cold, and never checked on him, didn't call 911, didn't do anything except protect herself eventually. So that's why the family, I think, might like the higher charge. And again, when we're in a court of law and we have a jury system that's civilian, how they look at this stuff, you always have to, this is what the prosecution has to take into consideration all the time. And, as what do we think a civilian jury will be able to deal with? And in this case, I don't know why they decided the higher charge, because I think that's causing one of the problems here. All right. Let me go look at some of your comments. This is interesting. Harper says civil juries are extremely uncommon outside of the Anglosphere. That's interesting. I do find that's true. Now, a lot of places have the judge system, and I'm not overly fond of the judge system. Some of them have like 3 judges, and I do have an issue with that. this is my reason that I'm a little concerned about that. A lot of people don't trust judges because the judges can get very political, and their little judge friends can be very political too, and they play golf together. So I'm a little concerned. I see when we hear people say, oh, we don't want the government like controlling everything. I see what their point is there for the judge system. So I am a little bit on the borderline on that. That's why I want a professional jury system, because then they're not judges. They're not playing golf with the other guys. They're not part of the government. They're people who have been trained to understand crime scene evidence and stuff like that. They've gone through a program. I'd love to run a program like that, because I think I've never thought of training juries, but I'd like to do that. I think of training detectives, teaching them crime scene analysis and criminal profiling so they can analyze their cases better in the first 48, so they can get things to go well and catch the guy, not go down the wrong path. But I would love to train juries and have that be a program. I would be happy to develop an entire program to train juries. And therefore, we get a bunch of people. And I don't know if I'd say, would it be full-time, part-time work? I'm not sure how that would work. It's complicated. I'm not saying, but believe me, I'm not like those people say, oh, we should do that. That's easy. No, I don't know how hard it would be. But I would love these programs. And I would train all these people to become professional jurors. And therefore, we'd have a very large jury pool of people who have at least training. I think that'd be fantastic. But I've been fighting this for years, probably. How old am I? I think I've been saying this for 30 years now. And I have seen every once in a while, I go on and put professional jury system into my Google search. I'm like, oh my God, somebody else agrees with me. And a professional, and I'm so thrilled. So I have seen support for a professional jury system, but we have in the United States, at least, some very bizarre, absolute love of the civilian jury system, as this is some kind of great idea. Now, it may have been a great idea back in the day, and back in the 1800s, and you didn't have all this technology and all these experts, and you tried to get, quote, a jury of your peers so that the government didn't just, take you out back and shoot you. But I don't even know what the heck a jury of your peers is. What's a jury of my peers, folks? Am I supposed to get are my peers supposed to be racially matching me, even though my whole family is interracial? Are they all supposed to be like my age? Like, do only people my age, only people my age be fair to me? But you all 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, you're all a bunch of bums. You don't understand me. How about, do I have a jury of my peers? What, they have to all be profilers? Detectives? What are my peers? What about, how about money? Do y'all have to have like the same kind of house I have? Live in the same kind of neighborhood? Spend your money the same way? Yeah. Who are my peers? I don't even freaking know. So what I find it funny when it's a jury of your peers. Who are they? Kind of nonsensical. Okay, I'm going to check for. Okay, let's see what else you have to say here. Professionals could be crooked too. Everybody can be freaking crooked. See, this is the argument I always hear. It's a ridiculous one. The judge can be crooked. The defense attorney can be crooked. The prosecution can be crooked. Hey, I've spoken out against certain prosecutors, especially if you check back on my Andrea Sincata case. I worked that case. There was a prosecutor who was completely out of line, and a police department is completely out of line. And I'm pro-police and I'm pro, generally speaking, the getting justice for victims. However, every once in a while I run into them. And this was a bad police department, and not the whole police department was bad. Sometimes they were good, but the people that were involved at the time, I wasn't too thrilled with them. And I identified the guy who committed the crime, and it took them like 20 years to get around to getting a confession out of this guy who was in prison. And then he implicated the fiancée of the woman who was murdered. And they've been going after this for years, and it was nonsense. And the prosecutor took it to court, and the jury, in this case, that civilian jury, the prosecution was so bad because the fiancé there was no evidence pointing to him except for a serial killer saying, yeah, he hired me to kill his fiance, but I have no proof of that. It was ridiculous. The jury came back like as the fastest jury I've ever seen, and thank God he was found not guilty. And I do believe there is going to be a lawsuit against that prosecutor, and I think that's well deserved. Corruption and anybody, and it can be anything, but you think a civilian jury system doesn't have this going on with them? But the civilian jury system, they're all the most kind-hearted, wonderful people. They're not swayed in any way. Oh, come on, where do you live? They can be swayed like crazy. They can be bought, they can be intimidated, they can be harassed, they can be threatened, and they can just come in with their own little emotional issues or political issues and say, I'm not going to find this person guilty because, the OJ trial is the number one issue of that. The evidence was overwhelming. OJ was guilty. But there was a political issue and a racial issue that came up with that trial. And he was found not guilty in spite of the fact the evidence was overwhelming. And Casey Anthony, I really feel like the Casey Anthony trial, people keep saying, the prosecution didn't do a good enough job. Yes, they did. They did a perfectly fine job. They weren't perfect, but they did a good job. But the defense had Jose Baez, and Jose Baez very cleverly did something smart. He implicated Casey Anthony's father and sexual abuse, and somebody on that jury or some persons on that jury went, I feel kind of sorry for Casey Anthony. Maybe her daddy really did abuse her, and maybe daddy really did do something to Kaylee. I was so pissed. When that verdict came down, I was beside myself. I was so upset. I still remember that day, and I don't remember many days, but I remember getting that verdict. I threw open my front door, walked out on my porch, and I was trying not to scream. I was so angry. So don't tell me that a civilian jury is like, they totally can't be influenced in any way. Get out of here. I'm trying to understand you. I think the slanders of juries come from people who are garbage attorneys and cannot make their points. So you think if juries were educated, that wouldn't work? I have no idea what you're saying, but I think it's probably nonsense. But okay. Okay. Let me check some more things. Probably what I was going to say, she was under the influence. She probably did and doesn't remember. She seems like someone who doesn't want to take accountability for actions with alcohol. I agree with that. She had a lot of alcohol. And a lot of people don't understand that these days, one of the problems with things like shots, especially for females, is they get drunk real quick. Their bodies cannot handle, because they're smaller bodies, cannot handle it that well. And so when you do shots, you can get really trashed. And then you're not all that cognizant of what's going on either at the time or perhaps later. And so I honestly think she may have been confused about what she did. She may have had some idea of what she did, but then because she was so freaking drunk, she didn't really know, and she didn't know what to believe and what not to believe. And of course, her actions after that are also confusing, or she's confused because she's still not sober. I mean, but she was 100% driving under the influence. And the other thing is where she allegedly hit him, it was where his body was found. And this whole nonsense about the people in the house, they're law enforcement, but after he supposedly gets beat up and a dog attacks him, instead of calling 911 and saying there was a unfortunate altercation, want to save our brother in blue. No, they go out and dump him on the front lawn, their own front lawn, which is stupid as crap. And they're not going to do that. They're going to dump him down the street if they have to, but they dump him on their own front lawn and in exactly the place where she would have hit him. So the evidence does, in case you still can't figure this out, let me just make a quick statement. The evidence shows that once he was at that point in time, and that's prosecution put out a timeline when all this happened. There was no evidence that he ever left that location he was in. There's no evidence he ever went into the house. There's no evidence he was beat up. There's definitely no evidence he was attacked by a dog. That's absolute nonsense. The defense put on a really bad MD. I saw some people that had some similar on their arm. Okay, people get dog attacks, but that's not that arm. And there's no dog DNA there. And the defense never even bothered to find Chloe at all. They wanted Chloe to be like the boogeyman, that you can't prove the doggy didn't do it because we're not going to show you the dog, or we're not going to show you the dog's teeth. We're not going to show you anything about the dog. We're not even going to look for the dog. The dog did it. But there was no dog DNA on his arm. And although I will agree with those people who said the prosecution may not have explained well enough how he got the damage to his arm, that's true. But the problem is there were so many ways he could get damage to that arm. It's tricky. It was a very tricky situation, but he did have the taillight pieces embedded in his clothing, and there's DNA in the car. So, he never left that spot. There's no evidence he ever went into the house. And that's this whole concept where everybody in the house is lying that he came into the house. And then they stupidly put his body right on the front lawn instead of getting rid of it some other way. And then they got everybody to cooperate, and they got the police and medical people lab people to lie and plant evidence. The whole thing is just nonsensical. It's a huge conspiracy that never happened. The simple answer simply is she was drunk. She backed up. She hit him. He went into the snow. She knew exactly where it was when she came back. The evidence all points to that. And is it perfect? Did the police do a perfect job in the middle of a freaking blizzard? Maybe not. You people don't live in a real world, some of you. You don't understand that. First of all, when you have first responders coming to a scene, they may not do the best thing. And again, it's a blizzard, so it doesn't work the way people think it does. They did the best that they thought they were doing at the time. Yeah, could it have been better? Sure. And did you have one officer who had a filthy mouth? Well, 100%. I check him off the force just for that. But hey, that doesn't take away all the evidence. That shows that he never went into the house. Once he never went into the house, what happened. It happened outside the house, and it happened with her. And if there was a professional jury, I guarantee you they would have come back with a guilty verdict on the first day. Because I've looked at this since the beginning, and of course I've had a lot of attacks from certain people. Well, you're not watching every minute of the trial. Frankly, I've read all this evidence, so I don't have to watch every minute of the trial because I have a life and I work. But maybe you don't. And if you love watching trials when you have the time, bully for you. But I work and I'm busy 40 hours a week doing other stuff. But I did read the evidence, and I did look in on the different shorter versions of things so I could know what was going on. If I were in a professional jury, I would have found her guilty on day one. But we have a jury here, and I don't know if anybody's heard anything about what's happening now. I think out of 12 people, one of the things I said earlier was that when I put out some videos, I saw so many people coming in saying, oh my God, she's innocent, she's innocent, she's innocent. There's a huge conspiracy. Clearly the dog attacked her. I saw so much nonsense that I had to say, this is what the jury is going to be like. Because when you see the public believe a lot of stuff that's simply not true, like the Google search stuff. There was no Google search made earlier in the night. How long does it take to die in the cold? It was not made near 2:27 in the morning, or whatever it was. It was that's nonsense, and it was disproven in the trial. The defense did a poor job of trying to prove that for some reason Jen McCabe made this earlier thing, which makes no sense at all. It's all nonsense. But a lot of people believe the defense was there to confuse. The defense was there. When you have a guilty client, the first thing a defense does is attack the police, go for conspiracy theories, and throw out stuff to confuse the jury. They're not there to just defend based on evidence. They're not, because they don't have any evidence to defend her with. So they put out a whole bunch of nonsense and hope they can confuse one or two people in the jury. And from what I'm seeing, what I was seeing when I was putting out a couple of videos, the attacks I got from people, oh my God, she's innocent. You're an idiot and you're not a profiler, blah, 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 blah. They believed whole bunches of nonsense that was not proven, was not evidence. And I said, that tells me that that's what you get on that 12 people off a bus stop. You might have 10 people who say, hey, we got it. 10 people said, we understand what the evidence is. And that would be amazing, but that's cool when they do, because some people do figure it out. And some civilian juries, I'm not against all the civilians on the jury, just the whole concept. They get it. But then 2 people go, oh, I think she's innocent because I think a dog bit her. Oh. Even though there's no evidence a dog ever attacked him, even though there's no evidence he was ever in the house. 2 people, just like all the people on the internet who are attacking me and are all turtle riders and all that turtle crap, and put pink on and run out there and put up signs, they believe nonsense. They believe stuff that's not evidence. And if that's true for what's out there in the world, it's true for what's on the jury. And all you need is 1 or 2, and then you're screwed. That's why it's a crapshoot. And no jury system should be a crapshoot. It should be a properly done, intelligent, expert methodology that once in a while may go awry, but not a crapshoot every dang time. All right, let me get some more of your comments. All right. All right. Let's see. We got... so many comments. I'm going to go to the bottom now because I miss so many comments come in. You can't really see them all. Oh, this is an interesting point. Loki says, why not do a mixture of jury system together with ordinary people? That's an interesting concept where you might have some professionals and some non-professionals. I think I thought about that actually myself, and I just think it's kind of a mess. I think it's an interesting concept, but probably a mess, because first of all, the non-professionals will feel like they're being controlled by the professionals, and they're going to kowtow to the professionals, or they're going to feel insulted by the professionals. I get that myself on my own channel. It's like, well, just because you're a professional doesn't mean you know more than me. I think there'd be a lot of disconnect and a lot of problems. And then the professionals, and this I can say from doing YouTube as well. As a professional, I do a show and I talk about all the analysis in the case, and somebody pops in and leaves a comment and says, well, I think this, and this. And I'm like, did you even watch the video and all the evidence I presented? Or are you just talking crap? And that, like, oh, I've analyzed this and I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, actually, you don't, because you don't seem to understand anything. You seem to be completely off the charts wrong. And then it becomes like, oh, so you're a professional and you're insulting me because I'm not a professional. And this is not exactly true, because I've had some non-professionals be brilliant. I've had some people come in, my patrons have come in and given comments. I'm like, oh, dang, you're really good. I'm like really impressed. And once when I developed this criminal profiling certificate program for Excelsior College, which they destroyed because they wanted me to, after I created this entire program, the first criminal profiling certificate program in the country. It was a five courses, 15 weeks each. I put in everything I could to make it a great course. And students didn't want to waste their time actually studying and like not writing papers without plagiarizing. So I kind of was ethical, and they got rid of me because I didn't grade inflate and didn't let the kids get away with not working, and they wanted to make their money. And then eventually they watered the program down and destroyed it. But anyway, before that happened, I remember this one class, and there were a couple people in there. One was a very wonderful, really nice person. She actually was a lawyer, but she couldn't profile at all, and she just she would analyze crimes terribly. I'm like, oh my God. She was a defense attorney, and she was so nice. She worked hard. She couldn't analyze at all. But I had this girl she was 18 years old, an administrative assistant. She was like absolutely on the money all the time. I'm like, oh my God, you should just become a detective. Just join the police force, become a detective, because she was so good. So some people have a very great ability for logic, for being able to look at things very objectively. And every civilian jury will probably have some of those people on it. The problem is, do they have 12 of them? And that's where the issue comes in. But I think that's an interesting idea. I just don't think it's going to work. Um, oh, oh Lord, oh my goodness. I'm just going to say it's about Vinny. I used to work with Vinny Paulton for a long time. I've been at television for years, although I don't do it much anymore. And I don't remember Vinny being like this. I think Vinny's gotten into the kind of like Jerry Springer mode or something. I don't know what's going on. Oh, Laura, I can sit at home and understand this case pretty well. No need for special training. We're making this harder than it is. I tend to agree with your statement, but the problem is if you were on that jury, you might have come back on day one. Unless you're on the other side that thinks that she's innocent. But if you actually see the evidence as it isn't that hard a case. That is correct. The defense had zero. I don't know why everybody says the defense has all this. The defense had zero. They've never proven he went into the house. They actually did not prove he was attacked. They didn't prove he was bitten by a dog. They didn't prove the earlier hostile to die in the cold. They didn't prove, none of the people in the house broke and said, okay, he did come into the house and we saw him being beaten. None of that happened. It is you're correct. However, apparently somebody on that jury or somebody's are causing it to be, at this point, a hung jury. And we'll see. Is anybody, I'm going to have to go to Bob to see if anybody's watching what's going on. See if anybody said anything about what's happening. Oh. Renee, proud mom of 4. Please teach your children better. But they aren't seeing the crowds. They're being brought in a different way in order to avoid the crowds. You're being dishonest. Get out of here. They know what's going on outside. Do you think they live in a bubble? Okay. I'm looking for good comments, by the way, because I don't have anybody handling this, so it's just me. I have to go with this one though. B. Harley, the innocence fraud campaigns are disgusting. The Innocent Project are disgusting, and they're false and lies. They're there to make money. I think I'm in love with you. I have been fighting the Innocence Project fraud campaigns forever. Now, once in a while, they actually find an innocent person. But so often people go, oh my God, Pat, this person was just released. They were exonerated, blah, blah, blah. And then I go and look because I'm always looking to see, okay, because I don't want innocent people in prison. That's horrifying. One is because that could be me. It could be you. It could be one of my children goes to prison for years and they're innocent. I don't want any innocent people to be in prison. That makes me ill. But 2, it also leaves a real killer out there. The real killer out there could be causing more harm, and justice has not been served. So if the Innocence Project were truly finding innocent people to exonerate, I would be fine with that. But that's not what they care about. They just care about finding any way to exonerate somebody, and usually it's technicalities. And so oftentimes when somebody's let go, and I go back and research it, I find out they're guilty as all get out. But they found these methodologies to get them out. And then the Innocence Project has a huge clout with the media. So the media just goes, wow, when they get innocent person out. And so everybody goes, oh my God, see the Innocent Project, they saved another person. Yeah, okay. No, they didn't. And it's sickening to me because if they want to say if they want to change their name from the Innocence Project to we want to be sure hold the government's feet to the fire and make sure they don't imprison somebody using sketchy techniques, I'm okay with that. If you want to say, hey, look, this dude's guilty as hell, but they did all these squirrely things and she should have been in prison based on that, I'm okay with that. Be honest. But that's not the way it works. So I entirely agree with you. I have a real issue. She's not guilty. If someone is finding her guilty, it's based on emotion, no evidence, in my opinion. No, Patricia, dear, you are the one with the emotion. I am a criminal profile, and I've looked at the evidence, and the evidence is very strong that points to her guilt. There is zero evidence any other place. okay, that points away to any conspiracy theory. So you are basing your stuff on your emotion. And because, look, I'm going to say this, you're not a professional. This is my point against jury systems, civilian jury systems, not jury system, civilian jury systems. You make my point for me. You may be the nicest person in the world. I may become friends with you and we may have differing opinions because, once upon a time in the United States, we could have differing opinions and still have a beer, that kind of day. Not so much anymore. But you could say, oh, Pat, I think she's totally innocent, blah, 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 blah. And I could still be your friend. I think you're incorrect, but I could be your friend. But you also make the point that you could be on a jury. And that's what scares me. Because I have a lot of friends who I love, but they're not logical. I have some very illogical friends. They're wonderful people in other ways. They're just not very good on the logic part, but they might be people who love children, care for the elderly, plant beautiful flowers, always there when you need them. You could be the most wonderful, lovely person in the world. But I'm going to say you're not that logical. And I wouldn't want you on a jury. But I'd still be your friend. As long as you don't insult me, which it seems to be a thing that goes on. Yes, they lay him out on the front lawn, preposterous. This is one of the things that it just absolutely is ludicrous. He wasn't dead when he was put on the front lawn, supposedly, or whatever. But yeah, you wouldn't put him on your own front lawn. I mean, they had the equipment, ability to move him someplace else. They could have said, and they could think if they wanted to frame Karen Reed, they could say she drove him down a mile away and dumped him someplace. They could have said that. I mean, there was so much. You would never drop him right on the front lawn. They didn't. I don't even know if the people in the house were. I mean, some people might have known Karen Reed pulled up there, but really, they're going to say, well, that's where she would have hit him, and we're going to frame Karen for the whole concept that that police officers would. This would be their plan. Oh, let's frame his girlfriend, and this is going to work. Okay, it's okay. So we're going to put his body out there, but then we have to somehow. Okay, so we got to somehow get people involved with it so that they can sprinkle like tail. We have to make sure her taillight's broken. So we're going to go over and smash her taillight, and then we're going to take some of those, crumble them up, get them sure they're in his shirt. That's not the way to think. And we're getting everybody to cooperate. Everybody who's in the house is going to be a lying dog, including the dog. But we got rid of the dog. Although the dog was gotten rid of for other reasons, because the dog was in a dog fight and people intervened and got hurt. And because, we don't intervene on a dog fight. We've had, our family has had the issue with a German Shepherd. She's very sweet to people, but she had a little, we had an issue where there was one of those electronic fences, which I say pretty much are useless. But anyway, it always worked until Verizon came out and killed the electronic fence, and we didn't know it. And my daughter's dog went over the fence line because there was a new dog in the yard, and it thought it was protecting and attacked the dog. It wasn't a pleasant experience. But the dog is, we still have the dog. I don't have the dog. She still has a dog. It's never hurt a human. But there was an issue of whether the dog would have to be rehomed because of that situation, because of the neighbor saying, I can't trust the dog. And I get the neighbor's point. We all understood it. It was a freaky situation, but there was a question of whether she would have to be rehomed. She was not rehomed. We managed to somehow get to keep her. Not me, my daughter next door. And that's my granddaughter's puppy. And now it's a dog. And so the dog is still here, but it might have had to been rehomed to a home that maybe was farther away from any other dogs or whatever. Sophie was rehomed for that particular reason. Now, if the defense really wanted to prove Sophie Dunn did it, they could have made a bigger effort, but they didn't bother because they just wanted Sophie to be the boogeyman or the boogie dog, the boogie dog, the boogie dog. Yes, this is correct. If a bunch of people are trying to conspire, especially involving law enforcement, they come up with a better plan. Yeah. My daughter and I, my daughter's a detective, and I'm a profiler. So we always joke about her husband. We're like, don't act wrong, because between the two of us, We do know how to get rid of your body and not get caught. Yeah, they come up with a better plan. Let's see. Interesting. Jules says, I came into this case thinking she was not guilty. After I heard the prosecutor's closing argument, man, I got swayed so fast. I know it's not evidence, but still, no, there was evidence. There was evidence in this case. People kept saying, oh, there's no evidence. I think their biggest problem comes down to, and I understand this, of the arm damage, how the arm damage actually happened, how the head damage happened. And people talk about the black eyes. You know, when you get nailed in the back of the head really bad, you get black eyes. That's not a big deal. But people don't understand that. The arm damage, there's numerous ways it could have happened. I agree that I don't think the the prosecution explained that well enough. And so quite frankly, don't know what they were trying to explain. But there was the car itself. We don't know when. Here's the thing: when something happens, all kinds of little things can happen. And that's when you're profiling a case too, sometimes you're looking at trying to do like a crime scene reenactment. Like, was he holding up his car? Like, did he do this? Did he do that? Did he do this? Did he run backward? You know, we don't know what John O'Keefe did and exactly what Karen Reed did at that moment in time. I also don't know the conditions of the road, the condition of ice on the vehicle, the conditions that there's a fire hydrant. There's all these things. And so sometimes it's very hard to do a proper crime scene reenactment to get the exact damages that you'd like to know what it is. But it wasn't a dog. Okay, I've seen dog damage. I personally did not see that as dog damage, nor was he ever in the house to get the dog damage. The most I could ever say, if you're going to really push for dog damage, is that the dog came out of the house and pawed at him or something in the lawn. But is that possible? Maybe. So if you want to blame Chloe for coming out of the house and pawing at him, all right, fine. But there's still no dog DNA. So, but when you look at, let me go to the totality of the evidence issue. Totality of the evidence says when you put all the pieces together, last one to see him, Karen Reed. One who says, I hit him, Karen Reed. One who was drunk and he was getting out of her vehicle and seemed like something happened. She drove away, Karen Reed. No proof he entered the house. No proof that anybody beat him. No actual proof that a dog attacked him. No proof that any message was, anything was Googled before early morning when she asked, hey, Google how long to die in the cold. All of these things put together, totality of the evidence, says Karen Reed and Karen Reed alone. Are there some questions that you just can't quite get total answers on? Absolutely. But when things happen in the middle of the night, under odd circumstances, in the middle of a blizzard, you know, you're always going to have a couple pieces where you go, I don't know the answer to that. But the totality of the evidence says there's literally zero that said anybody in the house did anything to him. That was absolutely the most wicked defense campaign I've ever seen. And this piece of garbage. And I will say, I'm not allowed to diagnose him, so I'll just call him a piece of garbage because that'll work. Is anybody who follows this guy, you need to get some help. Get away from this guy. This guy's a nasty, horrible piece of work. All right? He's a grifter. He's a liar. He's a cheat. He's a nasty. He's not a journalist. He is not. And there are people who think he's a psychopath, and I won't argue with them, but I cannot diagnose him as that because I'm not a psychiatrist. Okay. Controlling myself here. Let's see. Okay. I'm trying to go to some of your other comments. Let's see. Okay. Some of your comments I'm simply going to ignore. So one of the things people do a lot of times is that you all come up with a little question. You ignore 95% of the evidence and you go with a 5% unknown, you come up with a question. Why didn't somebody do this? I remember who was it? I'm trying to remember now. Why didn't somebody do something? I think the defense brought up the issue that the phone text was like, oh, the police are like at the house and I see them over there. So, oh my God, he's letting everybody know. So he saw something. Hey, I see this happening. Well, now see, he's trying to warn everybody. But then if he didn't do that, they would say, why didn't he tell anybody? See, you can't win. See, when you do these games, you can't win. I think what was the question? Why didn't anybody come out of the house when maybe for whatever reasons? If they didn't come out of the house, they're like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on out there. It's on my front lawn. I should keep hands off on this because I don't want to interfere. Because I'm also living, I should not interfere. They're doing their job. Let me not interfere with it. That could be a good thing. Or let's say they walked out and said, what's going on? Then there would be the whole thing. Oh, see, they were trying to influence the people that were out there. It's a no-win situation. See, that's the thing you do, because you don't want to look at the 95% of the evidence, the totality of the evidence that points to her. And you go with these silly little side things. And, there's always a ton of those because, everybody's supposed to act perfectly exactly the way we think or what the defense tells us they should have acted like at the time. People are human. Let's see. Okay, I see. I have to take me a little bit of time to read these things. I don't want to respond to people who are not because if you say intelligent things or have an intelligent question, even if you don't think she's guilty, I'm okay responding to that. But when I just see nonsense, if you're one of those turtle writer freaks, I'm sorry. If you're a turtle writer, you just lost your damn mind. Find a better channel to be around. Go to a professional channel like mine. Learn something. Don't go with some freak gossip person and hang out with him and get influenced by him because you love the excitement. It's like a reality show. You better check into your own mental situation. Maybe you need a better life. Go live life outside the internet because you're getting highly influenced by a bunch of nonsense, and it's sad. And that's one of the things, the downsides of the internet. And that we were talking about the mixed juries. I agree. I think that would be a problem, and I think it would be hard to now. Not mind you, the people who are ordinary who are on the internet don't always defer to me, but they're also doing that behind the scenes. Like, hey, my name is Wookie, and I think you're an ass, Pat Brown. You're a fraud, and everything you say is garbage. But if they were in a jury room with me, would they feel intimidated and feel like, oh my God, well, Pat Brown is a criminal profiler. She's done crime analysis for 30 years. Who the hell am I? I get that. Because if I were sitting in a room full of people and I was trying to understand how to fix the car brakes, and I've got 5 of the people in the room are auto mechanics, and all I know about a brake is that if you put your foot down, the car stops. I'm pretty much going to be intimidated by the mechanics, and I should be, because what the heck for me to say no more than the auto mechanics is ridiculous. I've had people say things to me like, for example, I published a bunch of books. I think it's 8 or something like that. I published like 5 with traditional publishers, and I published some self-pub stuff. I have people come in, friends, well-meaning, wonderful friends who I enjoy until they open their mouths on this, and that's very annoying, but I love them anyway. But they'll say, oh, Pat, you're going to sell, you can sell that book this way. I'm thinking, did you ever sell a book in your life? Do you know anything about the publishing industry? And they know nothing, but they got advice from me. And I'm like, why would you give somebody advice if you've never published a book? So no, I don't. So some people think they know more than they do, and that's also scary. Because I know nothing about cars. I'll tell you that. And my son-in-law and my daughter's father-in-law and my 2 sons, they can fix cars. And whatever they tell me, take care of it, dudes, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I know the difference. Okay, I'll take my bit again. If we go through some of you are just having some side conversations too, and you think that's too radical? Maybe we need radical because the civilian jury system is nonsense. We need radical because it doesn't work. When something doesn't work, you don't keep ignoring it over and over and over again and say it works when it doesn't. It's not radical. It's up to the judge to determine what evidence and arguments are allowed to make sure the jury is exposed to only fair material. But that still leaves them not understanding the material that they're exposed to. And they're exposed to experts from two sides who tell two different stories, and they don't know which one to believe. Don't tell me that it's radical to change up something that doesn't work. That's insane. What do they say? If you do the same things over and over again that don't work, that's insanity. So, yeah. Well, that poor family, that family, the O'Keefes have been through such absolute hell, and this nasty crowd is anti the O'Keefes as well. And for people who claim that they care about justice, they're so ungodly awful to the family of the victim. It's pretty disgusting. It is mob mentality, and the difference is it used to be that your mob at least was contained to just a small area, but now we have the mob here. This is a physical mob here, mind you. So there are people right there in town, but they're also being influenced by this piece of crap and everybody else on the internet who's pushing and pushing and pushing them to be a mob. So the yeah. Well, he did. Proctor was not. I said, let me explain something about police officers, firefighters, army guys. They're dudes. They say a lot of really trashy things and tacky things, which are not supposed to be made public. Okay, locker room talk. And for any woman who's ever worked, been the lone firefighter or worked on a police force, you better get along with a lot of trash talk from dudes. And some of the stuff they say is just like, it's like, oh, you guys are just disgusting, man. You guys are disgusting. And it isn't in the long run for most of the time. It doesn't mean that they're doing the job ineffectively. It just means that they're dudes, and you can object to the way dudes talk, but that doesn't have it. As far as this case goes, his trashy mouth really wasn't. It had nothing to do with the evidence. So you have to, again, if a professional juror would be able to separate the two things, go, maybe I don't want to marry my daughter, but he's just, but he didn't like this girl. He just didn't like the woman, and he just thought she was appalling. And from what I've seen, I can't really blame him in his thinking. However, I mean, maybe John should have better taste, but that's just a personal opinion. It has nothing to do with whether she committed the crime or didn't, because people who are really nice appear to be really nice have committed crimes. People who are complete slime bags sometimes didn't commit the crime. So you can't you can't look at the victim and say, I don't like you, therefore you committed the crime, or I do like you, therefore you didn't commit the crime. That has nothing to do with anything. It's evidence. You have to look at the evidence and take your personal opinion, emotions out of it. Be objective and not subjective. That's the requirement. Let's see. Vinny's in it for the ratings. Well, the problem when you work for media is that media expects certain things from you because media wants the ratings. The producers and the media outlet wants those. They want to pump things up. A lot of people said things about Nancy Grace, the way she handled things on the show. Some people liked her, some people didn't. But I'm going to tell you one thing: what people who did like her were the people that own that show, because she made them a fortune in money. So if she tones things down, they're going, "Hey, Nancy, you're ruining things. You toned it down. What are you thinking? What are you doing? You're killing our ratings." Now you can say, then, is she ethical or not ethical for kowtowing to the producers and the whole whoever is running the whole show? You can have that argument. I have left television for the most part because I don't like the ethics in television. So I don't do television anymore, except for on rare occasions. I did the one on Madeline McCann for Fox because they failed to do properly pre-interview me. So I got 5 minutes on News Nation speaking the truth about the Madeline McCann case, which was quite amazing. They haven't called me back since. And I think I did something for the Rachel Morin case because the family asked me to do a profile, and they wanted me to get that profile out on the media. So I did that. But I don't like playing the media games, and so therefore, but that, people want to keep their jobs, and that's why this also happens in the police world and in all kinds of places. But it's only things, some things you can't speak out about. I've worked on cases where police have brought me in, and I've reviewed the evidence, and I've said, look, I think so-and-so did it, and here's the 50 reasons why he did. Here's the 50 pieces of evidence, and it was not the person they were after. And they're like, oh my God, she's right. What are they going to do? It's 8 years later. If they tell the family I solved the case, or go to the media, tell the media, oh, Pat Brown came in, she was great, they are so screwed. They're politically, their whole department, the police, chief police, they're going to be eaten alive. So what do they do? Because now whether they could have ever used if I had been there in the first 48, would they have been able to get enough evidence to catch the guy? I don't know. So I'm not saying I would have made or broke the case, but if they admit now that they looked the wrong direction, it's like political suicide. So they're like, well, thank you, Pat. She couldn't help us. And is it frustrating for me? Sure. But do I understand it? I do. So, but it's not a perfect world. And I understand where the police are coming from when they're in that situation. And they're all working under certain the majority of detectives, if not majority of them, don't get any training before they become detectives. There's no detective school they go to. They go from the street to detective work. So some of that, they have hiring issues. They got political issues. They're all under a whole bunch of constraints. So if it were a perfect world, it would be nice to have highly trained detectives and profilers embedded in the department like myself. In the first 48, I would have given my information. They would have been trained themselves. Maybe they would be profilers in their own right. And it would be so much better. Where's the money? You got to get the money to do these things. So you can go into all these other things that would make everything perfect. But we don't live in that perfect world. So we have to deal with what we have to deal with. So we try to be fair about, what things what goes down sometimes. So let's see. Carolini, I hate to think what a professional juror curriculum might look like. Okay, I can answer this. Are you going to tell them lie detectors work or profilers are a proven thing? Okay. I'm assuming that you pretty much feel that law enforcement is crooked, and so prosecutions. All right. Are you going to tell them lie detectors? So in other words, who's controlling what the training is? I respect that. That's a good point. I don't have a problem with that point. That is correct. You have to be sure that the training is appropriate. And yes, it does matter who does the training. If I were the trainer, would I tell them lie detectors work? Of course not. Polygraphs are meant for an interrogation technique, an interview technique to be able to see how the person taking the polygraph responds before, during, and after, and being able to use the results to push them and confront them and freak them out and all the things you're trying to do to get them to confess or to get more information. So I would not tell them polygraphs are an absolutely scientific tool. No, I would not. Or profilers are a proven thing. I would tell them that the majority of profiling is crap. I've been against FBI profiling for the last 30 years. Why? Because it's not based on evidence for the most part. You have FBI profilers who actually do base their stuff on evidence, but that's their own doing, not by the FBI profiling methodology technique. A lot of the FBI profiling has been based on statistics and guesswork. So a white guy lives with his mother and has a green car, a dog, and a knife collection. Guard, get out of here. Where the hell do you get that from the crime scene? So when I profile, I do crime scene analysis. I look at every single piece of evidence and I say, what does that evidence support? And when I write my profile, I tell the detectives, this is why I say this, and this. I explain every single thing. If I say it's a white guy or a black guy, I will tell them exactly where that comes from the crime scene evidence, not from statistics. If I tell them anything, it comes from the crime scene evidence. That's proper criminal profiling and crime scene analysis. So I don't believe in the FBI profiling methodology. So if I were teaching it, profilers should not make up stuff out of their heads. That's just psychic work. And I don't believe in psychics. So no, I think it should be crime scene analysis. It should be deductive criminal profiling, not inductive criminal profiling. But I get your point. You got to be, who does the training would make the difference. I agree with that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't have training. So if you say that, you might as well not have training for anybody. Don't have don't have police training. Don't have training for law. Don't have training for medical work. Don't have any training at all because you don't know who's going to train. Again, it's an imperfect methodology, but some is more perfect than others. Training people to understand things in the courtroom and having a professional jury system is smarter than having a completely incompetent and questionable and roll of the dice civilian jury system. It's better. Is it perfect? No. But everybody always like, if we have a massively imperfect system, we want to keep the massively imperfect system because we might have some imperfections in a better system. That's illogical. But a good question. Hold on a second. I have something to drink here. All right. Yes. This is interesting. In court, everyone has a hired gun expert. You're correct. And I've seen, I think it was, what case was it? The music producer case. Somebody throw that name at me. The music producer who shot the woman out in California was at a house. Somebody throw the name at me. I always forget that guy's name. And I always forget the defense expert. I think it was, I have his book in the house and I'm just blanking on both of those names. Somebody help me out here. I'm going to the bottom of my things now to see if somebody will come up with it. Okay. Somebody come up with a guy in California. Hold on. Wow. I've got so many. I got to go. Wow. I'm like way back in the comments. I haven't caught up anywhere. Okay, I'm scrolling now. Spector. Oh, thank you. Yes, Phil Spector. Correct. Phil Spector was the music producer. Shot this woman, and does anybody remember who the defense forensic guy was? That was. I'm looking around for the book now because I had it out here just a while back. Can't remember. Darn. But anyway, the defense experts, a forensic pathologist who wrote one of the best books, mind you. And he knew what was true, in my opinion. But what happened was when he shilled for the defense, he gave the story about the defense that the blood spatter pattern proved that Phil Spector, blah, blah, blah. I was appalled. I'm like, what? I know from reading all your work that is not what happened. I know what that blood spatter pattern. No, it wasn't Baden. It wasn't Baden. I can't remember now. And I was shocked. But I found out, I think he got $40,000 for testifying, something like that. I don't want to sit here and slander anybody about how much money, but it was a lot of money. And I thought to myself, I would have thought you would not possibly have given that expert opinion, but for the defense. But he did, and a whole bunch of money came in. Was it Spitz? It might was it Spitz? I can't. I'm not even going to say because I can't remember. I don't want to screw anybody over. But I was shocked because when I had studied criminal profiling and all the forensic stuff, that was one of the books I had read, and I had a lot of respect for his book. But I guess he got paid good money. And I've seen this in a number of other cases. And you were pointing out Baden. I have seen him also stuff that I really question, and I wonder if he's getting a big paycheck for it. I do. And I think people are easily bought when it comes down to giving them big bunches of cash. That's why the experts are really questionable. You got prosecution expert says A and defense expert says B, and they're opposites. It's like both of these things can't be true. So either one of you is incompetent or one of you is a liar. Which one is it? That is the problem. And people don't seem to understand that. One of you is incompetent or one of you is a liar. Now, and people say, well, if the defense experts or the prosecution experts would lie because they're paid big bucks. Defense experts, by the way, pay way more bucks than any prosecution expert, which is why they can get these experts to say what they said. That could be the same for a professional jury. But the difference is the professional jury gets a basic pay that doesn't get increased or decreased because of who they test, who they favor. So you see, so if I were a professional juror and I was on this trial, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me whether Karen Reed is guilty or not guilty, personally. And I'm not getting any more money if I believe she's guilty or not guilty. To me, it's a case. And this is the same reason when I do when I do casework and I do commentary on cases, I don't have any particular I don't have any reason to care particularly whether it's this or that. I do it as a professional. I've had people say, for example, "Oh, well, the Madeleine McCann case, you get this, you're obsessed with it." No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I looked at the case. I found that there was no evidence of abduction. I analyzed it. I said that. I wrote a book saying that. I still say that. 17 years later, I still believe that. However, and it's not because I'm making money off of it. God knows. You people think I've made money off the Madeleine McCann case are crazy, because I just did a self-pub book at $2.99. I wasn't making any money off of that. And I went all the way to Portugal and met with Gonzalo Amaral and a whole bunch of other stuff. I put massive hours into the analysis and stuff. I haven't made jack off of that case. Because I'm just interested in the case and I'm interested in the evidence. But I don't have an obsession with Madeleine McCann herself. It's not like, oh my God, the poor dear, blah, blah, blah. I don't have any hatred for the McCanns as far as people go. I'm like, oh my God, the McCanns are the most scummy people, or what else. No, I'm just looking at the case. So that's what a professional juror should be able to do. Say, well, whether the person is guilty or not is one way or the other. I'm interested in analyzing the case and coming up to a correct conclusion. They're not my relative. They're not somebody I'm obsessed with. I just want, and even the victim, I don't know that victim. I'm not obsessed with that victim. I just want justice. And the justice should be putting the right person, getting the right verdict, and making sure if it's a homicide case, if a person is a killer. In this case, in my opinion, this was a one-off situation. She's not going out there and committing vehicular homicide all over town, or killing the next boyfriend off. I mean, she's not a serial killer. That's not what we're looking at. But if you do put the wrong person in prison, you can leave a very dangerous person out. So that's the important of it. And so if I were on a professional jury, I'm being paid a standard pay. It's my job. I would look at the evidence and come to a conclusion, period. Without emotion, without politics, and without any and without extra payment, like an expert witness would get. So, Jam says, now I wish I had not watched any parts of the trial, because the way the defense laid everything out with a professional reenactment plus the Emmys report, I thought she was not guilty. Okay, I'm confused about what your point is. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. I think I missed your point when I put that up there. I don't get it. Hold on a second. Well, I understand why people watch a trial. I'm not against trial watching in the sense I understand why people find it interesting. I get it. I mean, I don't have it. See, people think oftentimes I'm attacking somebody, like I'm attacking the poor. You don't have any empathy for the jurors. You think, you're insulting to the jurors when you call 12 people off a bus stop. No, I'm talking about this in a point to make a point, not because I don't like people individually as jurors. I think that televising cases while they're going on is a very bad idea. And I think sometimes if you're obsessively watching the case nonstop and you're getting completely emotional about it, you may want to do something else with your life. Just saying. But I understand the interest in watching a case. Some people find it fascinating. I find it terribly boring, and I feel sorry for the jurors having to sit through a lot of boring crap. I don't have the time to do that. And some people do, and for some people, it makes a good day. But I'm just saying, if you emotionally are getting overwrought and overconnected with stuff, maybe take a break. It's not, the thing is, it's not your case. I try to tell this to people all the time. People get obsessed with cases, like a Madeleine McCann. Oh, Madeleine McCann, Madeleine McCann. I'm like, it's not your child. You don't even know the kid. You don't even live in UK. You don't live in Portugal. What the heck is your problem? You're getting over obsessed with this. I understand if you want to judge the issue of justice in general, yes, but it's not your kid. You don't know them. Same thing happened with Riley Strain, or it's happening with I'm just going to say I'm blank now. So many names in my head. That's the problem. And the missing persons cases. What's his name? The autistic 15-year-old. What is his name? Somebody give me his name. Come on. I'm just blanking. Not Soto. Yeah. Oh Lord, it's the Soto case. Somebody help me out here. That's what happens when you do. That's what happens when you do live. You can make an ass of yourself. Okay. The Tennessee child, Sebastian Rogers. Thank you very much, Sebastian Rogers. Okay, I've done a couple shows on Sebastian Rogers. When in the beginning it was very interesting, as far as the stepfather and mother coming out and saying some very concerning things, and the stuff that didn't make sense about the case. I spoke on it, but I've seen people just going berserk. We have to find Sebastian Rogers. We have to find Sebastian Rogers, the sweet child. Blah blah. It's not your kid. You don't even know the kid. You don't live in Tennessee. Now, if you're with a kid's relative, or you live in the area in Tennessee, and it's one of your, the kids that live in your neighborhood, I get it. But, getting obsessed about something that's happening thousands of miles away from you, you need to focus back on home and family and community, where you can actually do some good, because most time you can't do much good just obsessing over something that you have no impact on. That's a little off. We're not doing this show. I mean, it's just too detailed. I'm talking in this show. What I want to talk about is the Emmy report. In my opinion, I didn't have any problem with it. I mean, it basically looked like he's whacked his head. Now, what he whacked his head on, I'm not sure. I always wonder about the fire hydrant issue. I haven't been able to see the crime scene photos, all of them, all the autopsy. I haven't seen everything, okay, because we haven't actually seen everything. And I mean, he whacked his head on something. I don't believe he got hit by anybody over the back of the head. I think that's nonsense. Or that he fell inside the house. He either hit something on the pavement, the curb, or the fire hydrant, and it caused a major brain concussion. And in the smacking, that's what caused the other damage to the face, which is where you get the black eyes and stuff like that. I saw nothing particularly. I saw no evidence he was beaten, and no evidence of a dog. That's why I say you put that in the category of, yes, it looked like something happened right there on the street, and he whacked his head on something, and then he was basically unconscious, lying in the snow for a great period of time, and died. So there we go. No one has empathy for John or McCabe's, Albert Higgins, or anybody else. So Karen doesn't have empathy for John. I don't know what that even means. Even when we're here, we have to speak somewhat coherently. I can't respond to your comment. I do not believe so. I'm going to be doing a review on Bernie's book coming up. I just haven't gotten to it because I took my own book off the market because I was redoing it to do a YouTube audio version that was free. And then I thought, my God, who wrote this crap? It's terribly edited. Oh, it was me. So I was like, geez. And so I pulled it off so I could rewrite it. And I've been working on editing. It's not rewritten. It's mostly edited. And I'm going to add some things in, some links and stuff to other blogs I've done. And I'm going to do a review of Bernie's book, Sudden Impulse. And is that the name of it? I forgot the name. I think it's Sudden Impulse. I'm going to do a review of his book and then link to my book as far as if you want to do more reading, talk about his book. But no, I don't think she was buried at sea. I don't believe she was buried at sea. Bernie doesn't believe she was buried at sea. We have different views of where she might have been buried, but neither one of us think at sea. So, okay, I'm not going to go there because that's silly. But you're free to have your opinion. Yeah, everybody's free to have an opinion. I've never been against having an opinion. However, when you state your opinion, try not to be rude about it. Okay. Well, okay. There seems to be some. I don't know if you're talking about me. I think she was saying everyone feels bad for Karen, but no one feels bad for the victim. No, I don't know that I'm saying that. I'm saying that the over focus on Karen Read has taken away the issue of justice for John O'Keefe. Now, those people think she's 100% innocent. Mind you, they think they're getting justice for John O'Keefe by getting everybody who was in that house and everybody in that conspiracy put away because they think it's a horrible conspiracy. So he's not getting justice and she's not getting justice. That's what people are, I think, have been deluded into believing. No, so I don't think that people who are pro Karen Read, free Karen Read, necessarily don't have any concern, but they have been, because they believe so highly that there's this conspiracy, and they believe that his own family and such is involved in believing that conspiracy. They're pretty nasty toward his family as well. That's what I'm saying, and that's pretty sick. That's just not okay. Oh, I wasn't talking about me. It's like texting. It's like half the time you're like, am I reading this message wrong? But anyway, I answered it. The FBI's involvement was something completely different. So I'm not even gonna go there because that is not the trial that's going on right now. That is something that was a whole different issue. And so that has nothing to do with it. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure what you're saying here. How do explain their extreme anger? What do they want someone to do? Tim, I'm not exactly sure what you're saying there. Are you talking about the anger of the mob? The mob, in my opinion, created by this piece of crap. The concept here is anti-police, anti-government. Now, mind you, sometimes there is corruption in police and sometimes there's corruption in government. So the defense team, who I think hooked up, I mean, I don't know what his whole relationship with the defense team is and with Karen Read, but he's not a journalist. Just get that straight. He keeps claiming he's a journalist. That's not how journalism acts. A person who's a journalist does not do what he does. He's a provocateur. He's a money maker. He's an egotist who's going after his own personal issues that amuse him. So the anger that he has helped encourage is that how dare the police are corrupt, the government's corrupt. This poor innocent woman, she's being framed and she's being hung by all these corrupt entities around her. So we must fight for justice because we have to free her because she has been imprisoned by these ghouls. And I'm going to say there are cases in history where the government and the police have done that kind of thing. There are cases in history, and therefore there have been the citizens have become enraged by what they see as an absolute um, overreach by government and corruption by government. That they're, I mean, they want to stop it before it spreads. I get that, but this is not that case, and that's what's so frustrating about it, because you can't put this is not that case at all, and it's simply a defense tactic, and people who jump on board, because a lot of these people, sorry to say, guys, a lot of you suffer from narcissism, and what you want is to be part of something and feel important, regardless of the evidence. You just want to feel important. You want to go running out there with your little pink shirts and throwing up signs saying, free Gary Reed, free Kerner. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. See me? I'm a good person. You want to be, it's about you. It's not actually about her. It's about you. And you might need to get some help with that. Jessica says, lots of laughs, Pat. Your opinions crack me up sometimes, hopefully in a good way. Some people get very upset about the fact that I make jokes during my show and laugh and kind of sarcastic sometimes, but I have a dark sense of humor. It's true. And I think anybody who's worked in this, well, a lot of people work in this industry have that dark sense of humor, but you'll see a lot of people who are profilers and detectives or storytellers who come on to talk about true crime, and they are all sobby all the time. They're like, and then it's just a terrible thing, and the family is it is so tragic. And I think they're faking it. I'm sorry. You're working this long enough. You're putting on a show. You just faking it. You're pretending to be all sad and emotional when you're not actually feeling those things, because you're doing a show. But this sometimes gets people to empathize. You look empathetic, then people empathize and think you're a wonderful person. So a lot of people think I'm not empathetic, and they don't think I'm a nice person, but I am empathetic toward the victims of crime and what happens to people. I have empathy toward them. But when I'm doing a show and I'm talking, I'm not going to sit here and all of a sudden pretend great emotions and put on sad faces just to. I'm just not a fake person. But yes, do I have empathy for victims? Absolutely. I mean, I work to try to solve crimes. At least, I want to, at this point, try to help detectives solve crimes. That's why I want better training, because I want crimes to be solved. I want justice for victims, and I want people put away so they don't commit more crimes that cause more pain for other people. So I have empathy. I just don't put on a show of it during my show. So, and some people like it, some people don't. And as I say, I'm just not everybody's cup of tea. And they're like, don't make a nasty comment about me. Just click off and go to another channel and find something you like. It's that simple. Oh, that's interesting. We've seen you get upset, Pat. We know you're human. Once in a while, yes. I do get upset once in a while. And something. So it's kind of like one of these things that kind of breaks through. I've often told people when they ask me, when you look at the crime scene photos and stuff, does it like get to you? I'm like, no, I can look at crime scene photos and eat pizza. It's true. But if I talk to actually sitting in front of the family of the victim and they're falling apart, then I tend to fall apart with them, because that gets to me. And so, because I'm seeing their emotion, and that I can't, it's hard to pull yourself away from that, separate professionally. But when you're looking at crime scene photos and stuff, I can do that. But seeing people's pain, that's a little more difficult. Let's see. What the heck is what? What are your thoughts on the testimony of Beaumont children? She put on record with the tribunal she believes her life is in danger. Really? Why would her life be in danger? I don't know. Okay, I did do a show on the Beaumont children. If you look up Beaumont children, you'll see my show on it. But I don't know why she thinks her life is in danger. That kind of makes zero sense. That's true. Annie says, one could argue that the crime scene investigation could have been a lot better, true, in a blizzard, but accusing a whole department of cover-up, that's a defense trick. That is correct. Yeah. they did what they could at that time in not a great situation. They weren't as, there's smaller police departments and bigger police departments, and under certain circumstances you just don't get the best. And they tried to do the best they could, and they try to improvise. I don't think their improvising was terribly wrong. It's just, it doesn't look as good as when you do things the proper way. Um, okay, second here. Oh, no, that's true. You just have to have a dark humor, just same as people who work in the hospitals, Pat. That's, and it's true. I mean, same thing when you're in a hospital. I worked as a medical sign language interpreter for 13 years of my life. So I worked in hospitals nonstop, and there was the people say things like, oh, which person are you talking about? They'll say it's the liver in room 3. And people go, oh my God, you just depersonalized that person. No, that's because they know the medical conditions, and they're trying to point out that there is a kind of a dark humor there. I think, although I had less dark humor when I worked there than as a profiler, I think that's probably true. But I'm watching right now. I'm watching Hawaii 5.0, the new version, which I think is not as good as the old version. But I do love Hawaii, so I love looking at I like everything about Hawaii, and the landscape and the culture and all that stuff, and the food. So I like watching it. But the medical examiner has this really great sense of humor, and so do some of the other people there. And they talk around the deceased in a way that is pretty like that kind of thing, where you make comments that are probably anybody outside would find highly inappropriate, and they make them. But then when they meet with the families, you see that same thing. They have that great empathy. So there is that divide, and so this is the way it works. Okay. Thank you. My son is a cop, and most cops aren't corrupt. No, they're not. I mean, I have, I say, law enforcement and family, and they're good people, and I know the people. I know a lot of police, and worked with a lot of police, and for the majority of them, they're fine people. And then you got, the problem we're having now is that because the community, it's getting harder and harder to get people to join the police department. If they have to lower their standards, they're going to start getting in people who don't pass the psych test. Then they won't be so great. And once in a while, because of the kind of work it is, where people get to put on a uniform and have a gun, you get people who a little lean toward the power thing, And most of the time, they stop there, but once in a while, you get somebody who managed to get to the psych test, and they may be over there. That's why in every profession, you're going to get some people that, unfortunately, aren't what you wanted to hire. You get teachers that are creepy. You get doctors that are creepy. You get some police officers that are creepy. So it happens. Okay, I'm just sorry. Bugs are flying through. We live next to cows. Oh, thank you, Sterling. Found your channel recently. Appreciate your common sense approach. Thank you. I try to, some people object to my common sense approach, and kind of just very I don't know, called basic, just clear. I would say clear, because I don't like to use a lot of fancy words and a lot of very academic type of stuff when I'm talking to, well, anybody, quite frankly, because there's a lot of times we hide behind fancy words. And it's not that I can't use them. I do have a master's degree, and I've written many books. I can use the fancy words, but I just tend not to. I find a lot of times people, when you use the fancy words, when you finish with the whole statement, you go, huh? What did you actually say? And I've gone to whole conferences where somebody's talking about, let's say, psychopathology. And when I'm finished with the conference, I'm like, and what was the point of everything you said? It's all fancy talk, but what are you actually trying to say? And I feel like if you can't say it in clear language and you have to bolster it with a whole bunch of big words, probably you might not be actually having a point to get across. So I just stick with that. That's a good point. Yeah, there is a lot in the media that's very, very negative about police. I don't want to go politics wise. So, but yes, it stirs up things again. See, the media is about making money. Is about how many people watch, how much the advertisers are going to then jump in and make their money. So there's a lot of stuff in that is pretty horrific that's put out in the media, both with reality shows and with movies and with news. That it's just sad, but it's it's how you make money. And on YouTube, I don't make nearly any kind of money the way the gossip channels do or the grifter channels do. Because if I was weren't an idiot, I'd be more gossipy and more, and I'd really I would have done this show every freaking day because that's what makes money, and people like making money, and organizations like making money. So it's really tricky. It's we on one hand we need media, on another hand we need to clean up the media and make it more professional again. That's kind of my opinion. Um, oh, well, word salad usually goes with people who have schizophrenia, but then you can people who don't have schizophrenia can also just throw a whole bunch of words out, and when you get to the end, you don't know what the heck they actually were talking about. Like, what were you trying to say? What was the point? But it sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds fancy. And a lot of times I've seen this with profiling as well, and it really bugs me because you have profilers like standing in front of a bunch of detectives, and you know how you pointed out that sometimes people who are lay people are going to be cowed by the professionals, right? Well, this is what some of these I've seen some FBI profilers do. They stand up in front of a crowd, and they say all these things, and the crowd goes ooh, and at the end of it, you go, okay, what did you learn? And the problem is nothing. And so, if I'm going to talk to detectives, I want them to understand what it is necessary to know. Because if you're going to work a case, you need to know stuff that works, the stuff that's stuff that's real, not basic, but real. So, what good does it do all the other fancy stuff if it's not going to solve your case? So, yeah, that's just kind of the way I think of things. I think that thing can be true for all kinds of other issues besides profiling. I mean, it's true for so many things. If we would just be straightforward about it and not do all that fancy footwork. Yes, this would be correct. I mean, there's bad doctors, bad nurses, bad dentists, bad mechanics, bad food workers, bad service. Could be anybody. I don't think it's one genre. It isn't. I mean, every group of people has those tweakers, as used in some industries, tweakers that are problematic. And of course, if you look at just a normal bell curve, you're going to get those people at the bottom who are complete idiots and corrupt. Then you're going to get your regular people who are pretty smart and pretty nice and do a pretty good job. And then you're going to get the exceptional people. That's a bell curve. It's in every profession. Unfortunately, when it's in the police profession or certain other professions, medical profession, you really don't want to get stuck with the guy on the bad end of the bell curve. Then you're screwed. Lord. So let's see. Okay, I've seen that person here before. I'm not going to respond. But you're welcome to your opinion. You are welcome to your opinion. Let's see, anything else? And what people say, let's talk about looks, because somebody said she has shark eyes. Okay. A lot of times people put too much basis into the way people look. Because I'm looking at this picture of John O'Keefe, and he looks mean in this picture. Do we call him a mean guy who's abusive to her just because he has this look in the picture? I have had photos of me that are appalling, and my haters have used those photos and they put them out there and say, "See, Pat Brown is like whatever." And I've even had videos that if you didn't. This is what I'm also saying. Don't jump to conclusions because you never know what happened before the video started. Unless you have a really long video and you have a lot of information. Like, for example, let's say I'm talking about a serious subject, and somebody like, and somebody next to me says something funny, and I just for a minute, and oh my God, she's laughing about a serious subject. No, I laughed about what the person said. Or let's say I was, I didn't know I was on camera, and I was looking at something. I come back, oh, I'm on camera. You can get you can just misinterpret uh, a face, and of course people will pick the face or the video that they want to promote whatever they're trying to say about that person. So be very careful of that. One of my favorite thoughts is the Olin Mills. I don't know if you remember Olin Mills. Olin Mills is where families used to get their, I don't know if they're still around, but they used to go get their family photograph. And I remember this one, and there's a guy sitting there. He's got his little suit on. And his wife is sitting next to him, and the two children, and everybody. Happy family picture. Next day, they're all dead because he killed them all and committed suicide. So that photo, if you looked at it, you go, oh, nice family. And the next day they're dead family. So be careful with photos and videos. A lot of times, unless it's, especially the photos, especially, but if you're going to videos, make sure they're long enough so that you have a complete picture of what is happening in the videos. Like my YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure if you watch my YouTube channel, I'm doing 2-hour videos most of the time. I'm pretty sure you know who Pat Brown is. Like me or don't like me, at least you know. But if somebody takes out just a 10-second frame of me during a video, it's hard to say whether that is accurate and that actually represents me. So be a little careful on just looks. And looks, some people just have funny looks too. Some people just, wait a minute, are you back again? Wait a minute, Justy is back in. Aren't you sweet? Well, that's interesting. Wait a minute. The prettiest photo of me ever taken was the most depressed day of my life. See, there you go. You get a lot of, yeah. So take things with a little grain of salt, just so you understand how things work. Okay. My mom made us go to Olin Mills. I don't know if anybody's doing that anymore, but in case you are, let me give you the trick, the Olin Mills trick. Because what happens is when you go in there, they take pictures, they take a huge amount of pictures, and they tell you they're going to get, like, Sears is the same way. They tell you like $19.99 package, right? And then when you go in to get your $19.99 package, they make you go into a back room where they put all these really big photos of your family all around the room. And then they go, $19.99 is the package, but you can buy any of these other packages. And then you go, no, I just want the $19.99. They go, you want this beautiful picture of your baby ripped up and thrown away? And then you get back and your heart breaks because you want every picture, especially if you got new kids, babies and stuff, you want every picture in that back room because it's pretty and it's your kid. And people go out of there spending $200 or $300. They go insane. So it's just terrible. And so I went in there once. I did take the pictures. I walked into the front room and they said, you need to come to the back room. We're going to show you. I said, no. I'm not leaving the front room. And they're like, oh, no, you need to come back. I said, no, you told me $19.99. I'm paying $19.99. I'm paying it right here at the front. I'm not going in the back room. And they're like, but you have to. I said, no, I don't have to. This is the package that you shot for me. This is what I want. And I turned to the people in there. I said, don't go in the back room if you don't want to pay more than $19.99. So you were just being so nice today. I have to just comment on where'd it go? I can't get that. This is a good point. I like this. Experts don't always come up with the same conclusions. You're trusting credentials, not necessarily science. That is actually a very good point. Credentials don't, when you're being hired by one side or the other, the credentials are just what you put. I mean, you put that out in court to make yourself look like if you read all these credentials, well, Dr. So-and-so, you're a forensic pathologist. How long have you been a forensic pathologist? Well, I've been a forensic pathologist 30 years. And where did you get your training from? My training came from Harvard. My training came blah, blah, blah. And I've worked with this huge resume and all this stuff. And that is supposed to impress the jury that you, again, you should believe them because they're this massive expert. Who are you, this little guy sitting in the, they're never studied forensic pathology. This guy's like the titan of forensic pathology, and you're supposed to, and they just told you how brilliant he was from all this crap, and just, you should believe him. Therefore, you should believe him. But then they put the other expert on, and he has an equally massive, resume, and you're supposed to believe him, but they say the opposite things. What the heck? And by the way, I will never be an expert in court. First of all, I don't think profiling belongs in a court of law, so I'm good with that. But also, because I'm kind of a renegade in the profiling industry, I don't have that. I have that master's degree, yes, and I've had years of working in profiling, but I wasn't an FBI profiler. So, and I've written books, but probably not the standard profiling background that would work. So they would bring in an FBI profile like John Douglas, because John Douglas can brag about whatever. And but I personally am not overly fond of his profiling methodology. But in a courtroom, they're going to pick him over me, hands down, because resume. And that doesn't mean, you're correct, that he necessarily is any good even, but you hope that he's better than somebody who doesn't have a resume. Just you hope that. It's tricky. It really is tricky. And that's why, to some extent, it helps to have people who have some training to be able to say, okay, that person's got a great resume, but does what they say make sense? One of the cases, let's see, what case was that? Kathleen Folbig case out in Australia. She was exonerated recently. She killed 4 of her children, her babies, and she was convicted of serial murder of her own children. And somehow the defense got about, I don't know how many, dozens, maybe 90 scientists or something like that, to sign this petition to free her based on scientific evidence. Now, genetic evidence that her children all died of a genetic disorder. And 2 of the children died of one genetic disorder, and 2 children died of another genetic disorder, all based on certain research stuff and some mouse stuff. And she was exonerated. And I read that stuff. I said, this stuff is garbage. There was no way that all 4 of these children died of any of this crap. It's nonsense. And I did a whole video on it, if you want to check out the Kathleen Folbig videos. And it was unbelievable. But these scientists, I don't know, it was a political thing or a feel sorry for this poor woman thing. I don't know. Don't believe women can be serial killers. I don't know what it was. But she got exonerated. Now she's going to be rich. And her ex-husband, who lost all his 4 babies because of her, not going to be so happy. But they all had credentials. These scientists had credentials, but I could understand the logic and the lack of logic in these studies to say this is not evidence that she didn't kill the kids. All the evidence in court said she killed the kids, and now you come up with a bunch of nonsense. But they had credentials. Oh, sorry, bug again. That's true. I've seen some highly educated people have little skill with human behavior. That is true. And it's, again, nothing is pat us so over, Karen Reed. Oh gosh, no, that's a mosquito. That's not even. I can't even. Maybe I can blame the cows next door on that, but it's a mosquito. I think it's a. Okay. They like the lights in here. Let me go down to the bottom here. I think I'm about to take to close this off. I got a hangout to do with my patrons this evening, and something is jammed up here. What's happening here? What are the chances? Okay, this is a good question. What are the chances she would be found not guilty? So let me close with this. Has anybody heard anything about the trial since? Okay, hold on a second. I got to see what's going on out there. Let me go to, this is my best place for information here. So I'll find out what's going on with the trial. I guess there's nothing yet. I don't see any evidence coming in yet on any kind of determination. Anybody seen anything? They do appear in court. This is kind of my, I have two possible answers to this. Um, uh, One is that the defense has accomplished what they intended to accomplish, which is all you need to do is turn one or two, get enough people to believe that she is that there is corruption and all this stuff, and then she'll be found not guilty, or the fear from the jury of being harassed and tormented, uh, attacked, is so severe that they'll just go with not guilty. They'll say the prosecution didn't prove the case, and therefore we're just going to go with not guilty. That's one theory. The other possibility is that enough people think she's guilty, and one or two are fighting it, and therefore it's going to be a hung jury. I'd be happy to see that. Obviously, a mistrial, because I think this whole thing is so horrific. This is an example of how a trial shouldn't happen. Again, as I said, everything that happened here is what we need to revamp in the justice system. We need to go professional jury. We need to get the cameras out of the courtroom, and not, if they're going to be there, not have them broadcast anything till the jury that is finished. We need gag orders. We need this to become a solemn process where justice is served, and not have us be a dog and pony show and a stadium full of like a Roman gladiator thing, a bunch of people thrown to the lions, and have everybody cheering and shouting and selling food outside. I mean, it's just appalling. Well, where is the reasonable? See, reasonable doubt is not really there. The reasonable doubt is because this is the problem. Reasonable doubt is where you can go to when you don't want to be when the jury is afraid of the repercussions of finding her guilty. Then they'll have reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt, people throw that around easily. Reasonable doubt is what you're supposed to have when the evidence, there's enough missing from the evidence, you actually cannot be sure the person committed the crime. That's real reasonable doubt. Their evidence all points to Karen Reed here. There's nothing that doesn't point to Karen Reed here. All the physical evidence, all the verbal evidence, all the circumstantial evidence points to Karen Reed. There's really no reasonable doubt here. And you can say, well, maybe a dog did bite him. That's not reasonable doubt. That's just making up stuff, because there's no evidence that dog ever bit him. So that's nonsense. Or maybe he got beaten in the house. There's no evidence he went into the house. So you're claiming stuff as evidence that isn't evidence and calling that reasonable doubt. That's nonsense. That's the problem. That's not reasonable doubt. Now, do I have cases where I think there's reasonable doubt? Yes, I just did one the other day. It was on Lion Sisters. Lion Sisters went missing back in the 70s, and they finally convicted somebody of the crime. If I were now, he did a plea deal, and he's in prison. I have reasonable doubt. Why do I have reasonable doubt in that case? The guy's a scumbag. I don't have a problem with him being in prison. And he half confessed to parts of the crime. I have doubt because he changed his story so many times. He has a lot of information that doesn't make sense. There's no physical evidence whatsoever to support any of the stuff that he claims happened, or that the detectives think happened. There's just no physical evidence whatsoever. I found too many holes to believe that could he have done it? Could he have been involved? Yes. But is there any proof he was involved? The answer was no. There was no evidence outside of these stories he told that he kept changing. And then I don't know how much was being fed to him. I had reasonable doubt for that reason. But in this case, I don't see reasonable doubt. And people just try to claim reasonable doubt because it's easier to do that. Say, well, we just don't know they didn't prove well enough how the car hit him. That's reasonable doubt. No, it isn't, because the evidence is strong. The totality of the evidence is strong. So you're going with a shadow of a doubt. This is the concept where there's one question I didn't get answered, so therefore it's reasonable doubt. No, it's not, because there's still massive evidence. Casey Anthony, massive evidence. There was no reasonable doubt. She killed that kid. She taped her face and kept her from breathing. She left her and put her in a car trunk. There was no reasonable doubt. OJ, there was no reasonable doubt. It's nonsense. But because somebody said, well, you know, maybe we're not seeing it correctly. Maybe the father really did kill Kaylee. No, come on now. There was no reasonable doubt. It's just, but that's, people also become very insecure. Here's another thing for the jury system that's unfair for them. You are a regular citizen, and suddenly you are an executioner. You know, when you do executions, think about this. When you do executions, one of the things the old way of doing execution is you hire the executioner. He walked up there and he goes, you know, whatever, or cuts the guy's head off, or, you know, the execution was done by one dude. The guy's like, I like killing. I'm good with it. You just hired an executioner. Then now they have these things where you're supposedly not supposed to know who actually killed the person who's being executed because you would feel bad. So, but you don't have a problem putting 12 people in a room and saying you're going to be executioners. You're either executing this person because you're going to put them in prison the rest of their life. You're executing them from normal life forever and ever, or you're executing them by applying the death penalty to them. You are executioners. You're telling 12 normal people to become executioners. And a lot of people can't step up to the plate and do that because it makes them want to throw up. They're like, I don't want to be the person who makes this life and death decision. I don't want to play God. And they can't handle it. And so they'll come up with not guilty just for the sake, or, oh, I have reasonable doubt, just to save themselves from ever having to make the decision of life and death for that person. They can't make that decision. Should they be on a jury then? No. But do they end up on the juries? Yes. So that's kind of a last thought I have on that. So anyway. Peter, I get along well with Peter Hyatt. Yes, highly recommend. Highly recommend. I have 8 live shows a month, Harper. Hey, 2 a week. Hey, come on, 2 every week. The hangout during the week and the case show on the weekend, and it is $5 because I decided to go with. They have all these different levels, and each level you're supposed to give somebody a present for being on a higher level, special videos. And all. I said, I don't have energy for that. I'm going to I just want my nice community. You join my community. You can come to all the lives. You can be, we can chat in the community, chat area. And I like you guys because it gives me a sense of community myself, and it helps support the channel. And I appreciate that. But it's just $5 a month. 8 live shows a month. Yeah. Oh, you made it live. I hope you made it earlier because I'm about to quit now. Oh, Lord. Okay, so anyway, let's look. Well, I might. Yeah, there we go. Now you got it right. We feed her feral cat. Yes, you do. And while I went down to, I have a feral cat that I feed, and he comes in my cat door, and I've worked with him, and I've moved his food bowl into my bedroom, so now he eats by the side of my bed. So he's a total feral cat, and I'm trying to see if I can ever tame him. But I went away to Texas for 4 days, and I left him a big bowl of dry food, and it's completely gone. So tonight we'll see if he rolls in, and if I can get him back bedside. But yeah, you'll help feed my feral cat. Oh my goodness. So anyway, Mackerel is getting fat. He was pretty fat to begin with. He was a pretty good looking feral cat. So anyway, I'm going to stop here because that's 2 hours, and I'm not going to sit around and wait for the actual verdict because it might not happen today. But I might do a short video when the actual verdict comes in. I will give my thoughts on the verdict when it does come in. And I thought it might come in during the show, but since it hasn't, I might do a separate little short video just to discuss the results, what I think about that when it actually comes in. So anyway, I'm glad you were all here today, and I want to thank everybody for being, I think, pretty polite today, considering I thought it might be more of a disaster here, but I think everybody's been pretty polite, even those people who disagree with my point of view. I think most of you have been okay. So I appreciate that. I mean, that makes for a much more pleasant time. So we have some people who are giving their opinions at the last thing here. Lord. Anyway, thank you for all your nice comments. I appreciate that. It gets me through another day. Oh, see the regulars tonight. The regulars will be, yeah, hi Texas Redhead, yes. Come out to the regular hangout tonight, which is really late this week because I was away in Texas. So I appreciate that. So anyway, so if you're new to the channel again and or if you're coming in late, didn't see the live, please do subscribe to the channel. Helps me out. And do like the video and share it if you can. And I don't even cross my fingers. I don't even know what I don't even know what to think. This whole thing has been I'm sure she gets convicted. There's going to be appeal after appeal after appeal. And the Innocence Project will probably roll in and find some way to represent her because it's a huge case and they do love publicity. And if she's found not guilty, well, that just again proves my point. And if it's a mistrial, which it should be, I don't know what they'll do next round to improve this nightmare, because this is not the way cases should be. This is not the way trials should be conducted, and nor should the public conduct themselves the way they've conducted themselves, which has been quite appalling. And I'm pretty sad about that. But anyway, thank you for being here, everybody. And for your regulars, see you tonight. Bye.